There's something magical about discovering wealth hidden in plain sight. It reminds us that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest value. So before you toss that old jar of change or cash in your coin roll, stop. Because the coin you've been ignoring could be your ticket to a new life, a life of freedom, security, and abundance. But what makes this 1941 no mint mark wheat penny so special? Why are collectors paying over $600,000 for a coin most people wouldn't glance at twice? And how can you find out if you have one sitting somewhere in your home right now? Stay with me until the end, because by the time we're done, you'll know exactly what to look for and how one tiny piece of copper could change your entire financial story. The year is 1941. The world is at war. America hasn't yet entered the fight, but tension fills the air. Factories are working around the clock, copper is in high demand, and the United States Mint is producing millions of pennies for a nation on the edge of transformation. Most of these coins were made in Philadelphia, without a mint mark. To the average person, they all look the same. Abraham Lincoln on the front, wheat stalks on the back, simple, unassuming, common. But here's the twist. The kind of twist collectors dream of. Out of the billions minted that year, a few rare varieties emerged. Some were struck from worn dies, others from experimental compositions, and some came out in mint condition, preserved against all odds. These few extraordinary survivors are now worth small fortunes. The best of them, pristine and untouched, can command staggering prices, up to $608,000 at auction. Think about that for a second. A penny, something you'd drop on the sidewalk and forget about, now worth more than a luxury home. Crazy, right? You might laugh and say, who would pay that kind of money for a coin? But the world of numismatics, or rare coin collecting, is built on passion, history, and the thrill of ownership. Collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying stories. They're buying a tangible piece of America's past. And the 1941 no mint mark wheat penny? It tells a story of resilience, of a nation standing on the brink of change. That emotional power adds value far beyond the coin's physical worth. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and maybe a little nerve-wracking. Most 1941 no mint mark pennies are worth just a few cents, some a few dollars if they're in good shape. But the difference between a coin worth $1 and one worth $600,000 can be as small as a scratch, a luster, or a subtle error invisible to the untrained eye. Let's pause for a moment. How many of us have jars of old coins sitting at home? How many times have we told ourselves, I'll go through them someday? Well, here's a gentle warning. Every day that passes could mean the difference between discovering a fortune and losing it forever. These coins don't last forever in circulation. Many are lost, melted, or damaged beyond recognition. Time is the enemy of potential value. But there's also excitement here. Imagine the thrill of holding an old penny, flipping it over, and realizing you've just found one of the rarest coins in the country. Your heart starts racing. Your mind floods with possibilities. College tuition paid off, a dream home, that long-awaited retirement. That's not just money. That's liberation. So what exactly should you look for? First, understand that no mint mark means the coin was made in Philadelphia. There should be no small d or s under the date. The key lies in the condition, known as the grade. The highest value coins are called mint state, meaning they show no signs of wear. They retain their original shine, their fine details, and sharp edges. Even a single fingerprint can drop the value dramatically. Now here's a detail that separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. Some 1941 no mint mark pennies have double die errors, where the design was stamped twice slightly off-center. Look closely at the word Liberty or the date 1941. If the letters or numbers appear shadowed or slightly doubled, you might be holding a double die penny. That small imperfection can multiply your coin's value thousands of times over. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you checked your loose change? Because believe it or not, there are still 1941 wheat pennies circulating today. They turn up in estate sales, garage boxes, and inherited collections. Some people sell them for pennies, not realizing what they have. Others hold on to them for decades, passing them down through generations like a secret treasure map. It's a fascinating paradox, something so small carrying so much potential. But that's the beauty of rare coins. They blur the line between history and opportunity. And they remind us that wealth isn't always loud or obvious. It's often quiet, waiting for those who know how to look. Now maybe you're thinking, this sounds amazing, but how do I know if mine is valuable? The answer lies in authentication and grading. Professional coin grading services like PCGS or NGC specialize in evaluating coins based on condition, rarity, and strike quality. A certified 1941 no-mint mark penny, graded MS67 or higher, can easily reach into six figures. One of the highest graded examples ever sold hit the market at around $608,000. Let's pause there. $608,000 for a penny. That number alone should make your jaw drop. But it's not just about rarity, it's about timing. The coin market fluctuates, just like real estate or stocks. As collectors compete for the best specimens, prices rise. And right now, the demand for high-grade Lincoln wheat cents is stronger than ever. There's a quiet movement happening across America. People are opening their drawers, checking old piggy banks, scouring estate sales, and rediscovering forgotten pieces of history. Each coin tells a story, sometimes of a working-class family during the Great Depression, other times of soldiers sending money home from overseas. These coins connect us to our ancestors, to moments that shaped our nation. And here's where the emotional weight kicks in. Every time someone finds a rare penny, it's not just a financial win, it's a symbol of possibility. It reminds us that no matter where we come from or what we've lost, there are treasures waiting for those who keep their eyes open. Now, let's inject a quick bit of humor to reset your attention, because yes, I see you eyeing that coffee can full of coins under your bed. You're already wondering if it's time to dump them out on the table and start sorting, right? Maybe your spouse told you it's junk. Well, guess who's about to prove them wrong? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before you start celebrating, remember this. Condition is everything. Clean your house, not your coins. Never polish them, never scrub them. The moment you alter a coin's natural patina, you destroy its collector value. A coin with natural aging is far more desirable than one that's been cleaned to shine like new. Now, here's something few people know. In 1941, the mint was still transitioning from older coin presses, and slight mechanical errors produced minor variations, off-center strikes, weak impressions, and doubled details. These flaws make certain coins one of a kind. That's what drives collectors wild. It's the same reason a misprinted stamp or baseball card sells for millions. Imperfection is perfection in the eyes of collectors. So imagine this. You walk into a coin show with an old penny. Experts gather around, examining it under magnifiers. They nod, whisper, exchange glances. Then one of them looks up and says, "Do you realize what you have here?" In that moment, everything changes. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The thrill of discovery is powerful, but it's also fleeting if you don't act. Rare coins don't just represent history, they represent opportunity. Every year, fewer of these coins survive. Every year, more disappear into private collections, never to be seen again. That's why collectors are willing to pay such incredible prices now. Let's take a deep breath together and imagine your life after finding that coin. No more financial stress. No more wondering if you'll ever retire comfortably. Instead, imagine calling your financial advisor, explaining that your wealth didn't come from stocks or crypto. It came from a penny minted before World War II. A penny that carried your dreams through decades, waiting patiently for you to notice. That's not just luck. That's destiny meeting awareness. So what can you do right now? First, start looking. Check your old jars, drawers, wallets, and inherited collections. Second, educate yourself. Learn to recognize key features like doubled dies, mint state luster, and die cracks. Third, get your coins appraised by professionals. A quick inspection could reveal something worth life-changing money. And if you're wondering whether it's too late, remember this. Every great discovery story starts with someone saying, "It's probably nothing." The people who find rare coins aren't the ones who ignore the possibility. They're the ones who look. Here's your cliffhanger. The truth few people tell you. There are still 1941 no-mint mark wheat pennies out there waiting to be found. Some sitting in change jars, some buried in estates, and one of them could be yours. Every coin holds potential, but only those who act will ever unlock it. So take this as your sign. Don't wait another day. Dig out those old pennies, inspect them closely, and get them checked. Because somewhere in your home, you might be holding not just a coin, but a piece of American history worth more than gold. And when you find it, remember this moment. Because today might just be the day you realize that true wealth isn't always about what you earn. It's about what you already have waiting to be discovered. Back in 1944, America was at war. Factories were roaring, steel was precious, and copper was being poured into ammunition and communications equipment to help our soldiers overseas. In 1943, to conserve copper, the U.S. Mint struck pennies out of zinc-coated steel instead. But in 1944, they returned to copper, using recycled shell casings from the battlefields of World War II. Think about that for a second. Every 1944 penny you see could literally contain metal that came from the war front. Here's where the story gets interesting and valuable. In the process of switching back from steel to copper, the mint made a few critical errors. Some leftover steel planchets, the blank metal discs used to make 1943 steel pennies, accidentally made their way into the 1944 presses. Those few coins came out with the 1944 date, but struck on steel instead of copper. They were never meant to exist. And today, they're among the rarest and most sought-after coins in American history. But wait, here's the twist. Even among 1944 pennies that look normal, some have peculiar traits that make them stand out. The 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, struck in Philadelphia, is known for its historical significance and potential rarity. While most are worth only a few cents, some versions, particularly those made on the wrong metal or with unusual die errors, can sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yes, one recently sold for around $600,000 at auction. Imagine that, a penny turning into a down payment for your dream house, or maybe even early retirement. Let's pause for a second. When was the last time you checked your change? Be honest, probably never. Most people toss pennies aside thinking they're useless. But that's exactly why this story matters. Sometimes wealth hides in plain sight. Sometimes fortune doesn't look like gold. It looks like an old copper coin. Now, before we get too excited, let's talk about how to tell if your 1944 penny might be special. First, the no mint mark part. That means the coin was made at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally didn't include a mint mark. You'll find that just below the date, if there's no small D for Denver or S for San Francisco, you have a Philadelphia coin. But that alone doesn't make it rare. The key lies in the metal. Grab a small magnet. If your 1944 penny sticks to it, stop everything you're doing, because that means it was struck on steel instead of copper. And that's where life-changing money begins. Of course, not all valuable 1944 no-mint mark pennies are steel. Some have unique die errors, double strikes, or off-center prints that make collectors go wild. Even subtle imperfections can add thousands to the value. It's like real estate. Location matters, but so does the foundation. And here's another clue. Weight. A copper 1944 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. A steel one? Only 2.7 grams. That tiny difference can make all the difference between a common coin and a collectible treasure. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Sure, maybe a few people got lucky, but mine's probably worth nothing. That's the voice of doubt. The same voice that stops people from looking through their attic, from checking that old box of coins they inherited from Grandpa. But remember this, luck favors the prepared, and knowledge turns luck into opportunity. The U.S. Mint estimates that over 1 billion pennies were made in 1944. Only a handful were struck on the wrong metal. Just imagine the odds like finding a needle in a haystack. But those needles are real, and someone, somewhere, will find one next. It might as well be you. So what would you do if you discovered your 1944 penny was worth hundreds of thousands? Would you sell it, frame it, or hold on to it as your secret weapon in uncertain times? Because coins like this don't just represent money, they're pieces of American history, artifacts of resilience, war, and craftsmanship. Now here's where things get even more fascinating. The coin market is booming right now. Inflation, global uncertainty, and the rise of collectible investing have made rare coins a hot commodity. People are putting their money not into stocks or crypto, but into tangible assets that hold historical and emotional value. A 1944 steel penny sold for $408,000 at heritage auctions. Another fetched over $600,000, and even coins in less pristine condition have sold for 5 figures. That's the power of rarity. That's the power of history. But be careful. Where there's gold, there's always fool's gold. Scammers and counterfeiters often try to pass off fakes as the real deal. So if you think you've got something valuable, don't rush to sell it online. Instead, have it authenticated by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. These organizations professionally grade and certify coins, turning uncertainty into verified value. And once it's graded, the magic happens. Collectors compete. Prices soar. What was once a forgotten penny can suddenly be the star of a high-stakes auction. Let's do a quick reality check. Most 1944 no-mint-mark pennies are common, worth only a few cents. But the rare ones, those struck on steel or containing unique die errors, are life-changing finds. And the only way to know for sure is to check. So how do you even start? It's simple. Gather every old penny you can find. Go through that coin jar, your glove compartment, your grandparents' change box. Look for the 1944 date. If there's no mint mark, grab a magnet and test it. You might laugh thinking it's silly, but remember, the people who've cashed in 6-figure checks probably laughed too, right before their lives changed forever. And if you're still skeptical, let's talk about something deeper. This story isn't just about coins, it's about potential, about overlooked value, about how something dismissed as worthless can hold unimaginable power. It's about the belief that wealth doesn't always come from where we expect it. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone bold enough to look. You might not be a coin collector, but you are an opportunity seeker. You're here because you believe in possibilities. You believe that your next big breakthrough could come from something small, maybe even something as small as a penny. Let me share a quick story. A man from California once sold a 1944 steel penny he found in his father's old collection for nearly $500,000. He said he almost threw it away years earlier because it looked strange. Imagine that, almost tossing away a small fortune because of a simple assumption. That's why awareness matters. And that's why you're watching this. Because knowledge today could become wealth tomorrow. Now I'll let you in on another secret. Timing is everything. The value of rare coins can rise and fall with market trends, auction results, and collector demand. Right now, we're in a golden era. The market for rare U.S. coins is at one of its strongest points in decades. Wealthy investors are diversifying into collectibles as a hedge against inflation, which means if you find a 1944 no-mint-mark wheat penny with unique characteristics, there's never been a better time to sell. But that window won't last forever. Every year, more rare coins are discovered and authenticated. As supply increases, prices could plateau. So if you've got one, or think you might, don't sit on it too long. Act while the market's hot, and if you're wondering how to sell, it's easier than ever. Reputable auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections specialize in rare coins. Some even handle everything for you, from grading to marketing to sale, so all you have to do is wait for the bids to roll in. Still think pennies are worthless? Let me ask you something. If you walked past a coin on the sidewalk tomorrow, would you still ignore it? Or would you stop, pick it up, and wonder if maybe, just maybe, it's the one that could change your life? Here's a funny thought. How many times have we all said, "I don't have time for pennies"? Yet people spend hours scrolling through social media. Maybe the next time you're bored, instead of scrolling, sort through your change. It might just pay better. We live in a world where people chase instant gratification, but real wealth often hides in patience, curiosity, and awareness. The 1944 no mint mark wheat penny is proof of that. A tiny symbol of how something ordinary can become extraordinary. So here's your challenge. Tonight, go find your old coins. Look for that 1944 penny. Test it, research it, learn its story. Because even if you don't find the rare one, you'll gain something far more valuable, an appreciation for the hidden opportunities that surround you every day. And who knows? Maybe one day your story will be the next viral headline. Man finds $600,000 penny in his kitchen drawer. It sounds unbelievable until it's true. Don't wait for luck. Create it. Don't dismiss the small things. They often hold the biggest rewards. And remember, in a world obsessed with paper money and digital wealth, sometimes the real treasure is copper and history combined. Your fortune could be hiding in your pocket. The question is, will you look for it? If this story lit a spark inside you, stay curious, stay hungry, and never underestimate the power of small beginnings. Because the next time you hold a penny, you might just be holding your future. But before you rush to dig through your change jar, let's uncover the truth behind this seemingly ordinary coin. Because not every 1950D wheat penny is created equal, and only a rare few carry the unique features that transform them from spare change into a fortune. So grab your coffee, sit back, and let's take a journey through time, wealth, and the surprising secrets hidden inside one of America's most unassuming treasures. It's 1950. America is booming. The war is over, the economy is climbing, and the sound of factory machines fills the air. In Denver, the U.S. Mint is striking millions of Lincoln wheat pennies, coins meant to symbolize hope, labor, and prosperity. Most of them were used in daily life, in gas stations, grocery stores, or tucked away in the pockets of post-war workers. But among those countless copper coins, a few slipped through the cracks. A few were struck with microscopic differences, minting errors, die variations, or perfect condition strikes that somehow survived the wear and tear of circulation. And those differences, invisible to most eyes, are what separate an ordinary penny worth 1 cent from a rare treasure worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Think of it like this. 2 coins can look exactly alike, yet one could buy you a cup of coffee while the other could buy you a luxury car, a beach house, or even financial freedom. The difference lies in detail, rarity, and condition. So what makes the 1950D Lincoln wheat cent so special? Let's break down the facts. First, the D under the date tells you it was minted in Denver. Over 334 million of these coins were made, which sounds like a lot. And it is. But here's the twist. Only a handful survived in perfect, uncirculated condition. Even fewer possess the flawless strike and rich original luster that collectors crave. And an even rarer handful show unique errors, like doubled dies, off-center strikes, or repunched mint marks that make them truly one of a kind. One such penny, graded at the highest mint state level by professional numismatists, was sold at auction for an unbelievable $594,000. That's more than the average cost of a house in America. And that's not a rumor or a fairy tale. That's documented fact. Now you might be thinking, wait, how can a penny from 1950 be worth that much? It all comes down to the holy trinity of coin collecting: rarity, condition, and demand. Rarity is about how many of a certain coin exist in a given condition. Condition refers to how flawless and untouched the coin is. The fewer scratches, marks, or discolorations, the higher the value. And demand? That's driven by passionate collectors, investors, and historians who are willing to pay top dollar for a piece of numismatic perfection. And here's where the real intrigue begins. Because the world of coin collecting isn't just about old metal. It's about history, identity, and wealth. Every coin tells a story. And when you hold a rare one, you're not just holding copper. You're holding a fragment of America's past, preserved in time. But let's take a quick pause for a reality check. Imagine explaining to your friends that you just sold a penny for $500,000. They'd probably laugh. "A penny?" they'd say. "That's impossible." And yet, it's not only possible, it's happening. Right now, people are discovering life-changing value in their collections, their attic boxes, and even their childhood piggy banks. And if you think it's too late to find one, think again. Millions of wheat pennies are still in circulation, hiding in plain sight. Some are sitting in mason jars, coin rolls, or forgotten albums from your grandparents' generation. Maybe you even have one without realizing it. So here's a question worth asking. When was the last time you checked your old coins? You see, the key to uncovering a fortune often lies in knowledge. Most people pass over valuable coins every day because they simply don't know what to look for. That's why collectors who educate themselves, who understand the fine details, the minting anomalies, and the grading standards, have the upper hand. They turn what others see as pocket change into a pathway to wealth. Now, let's dive deeper into the hidden features that could make your 1950 D wheat penny a jackpot. First, look for a sharp, crisp D mint mark under the date. In some rare cases, that D was stamped twice, known as a repunched mint mark. Under magnification, you might see a faint shadow of the original punch slightly offset from the final one. That tiny detail can multiply your coin's value. Next, examine Lincoln's portrait. In certain minting variations, his bust and the lettering show doubling, especially around the word liberty and the date. This is what experts call a doubled die. It happens when the coin's design is accidentally struck twice at a slightly different angle. And when that occurs, you're looking at a potential 5- or 6-figure coin. That condition is the ultimate multiplier. A coin graded MS67, mint state 67, looks almost untouched since the day it left the mint. Its surfaces shine with a brilliant copper-red hue with no signs of wear. Coins like these are what investors fight over at auctions, driving prices into the hundreds of thousands. But here's where the fear comes in, because time is not on your side. Every year, more rare coins disappear into private collections. More are damaged, cleaned improperly, or lost forever. The supply of high-grade 1950 D wheat pennies shrinks, but the demand continues to grow. That's why the prices keep climbing. And for those who act now, who take the time to look, to learn, and to authenticate, the rewards can be extraordinary. Imagine discovering that a coin sitting in your kitchen drawer could pay off your debts, fund your retirement, or even help you live the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. That's not fantasy. That's opportunity. But let's be real for a second. The coin market can feel intimidating. Grading terms, mint marks, die varieties, it sounds like a foreign language. Yet, the beauty of it all is that anyone can start. Anyone can learn. Anyone can win. Here's a funny thought. People spend thousands chasing lottery tickets, hoping to strike it rich, when the real jackpot might be hiding in their change jar. You don't need luck, you just need knowledge and curiosity. And if you're still watching this, that means you already have both. So, what can you do right now to uncover whether your 1950 D wheat penny might be worth a fortune? First, inspect it carefully under good lighting. Avoid cleaning it. Polishing or scrubbing a coin can destroy its value instantly. Use a magnifying glass to check for doubled features, sharp edges, and mint luster. If it looks promising, the next step is to have it graded professionally by an organization like PCGS or NGC. A certified grade transforms your coin from a guess into an investment. Collectors and investors pay significantly more for authenticated, slabbed coins because certification removes doubt. And here's the part that gets exciting. As coin prices surge and collectors compete for the best pieces, owning even one high-grade example can position you as part of an elite group of investors, people who understand the power of rarity and patience. You're not just collecting coins, you're collecting history. You're preserving wealth in a tangible, timeless form that has outlived wars, recessions, and market crashes. And who knows? The coin you hold today might just be tomorrow's record breaker. Let's talk about that emotional rush, the thrill of discovery. When someone realizes they've found a rare 1950 D wheat penny worth tens or hundreds of thousands, it's not just about the money, it's about validation. It's proof that sometimes life still has hidden treasures waiting for those who dare to look. There's a saying among coin collectors. We don't own these coins, we're just caretakers for the next generation. That's what makes this hobby so extraordinary. It's history you can hold. It's wealth you can pass down. So if you're sitting on a collection or even a few old coins, this is your wake-up call. Don't let them gather dust another year. Don't assume they're worthless just because they look ordinary. The 1950 wheat penny reminds us that value often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. And here's the final twist. The rarest coins in the world weren't discovered by billionaires or historians. They were found by regular people, retirees, workers, even kids who happened to check their change. Ordinary people who took one small moment to look closer. That's what makes this story so powerful. Because if they could do it, why not you? So tonight, go ahead, pull out that old coin jar. Grab that dusty collection your grandfather left behind. Take a closer look at every wheat penny you find. Because hidden in those coins might be the one that changes everything. Remember, opportunities like this don't last forever. As collectors and investors continue to snap up the rarest coins, the window to strike gold, or in this case, copper, gets smaller every year. You've now learned the secrets behind one of the most valuable pennies in American history, the 1950 Lincoln wheat cent. But more importantly, you've learned a mindset, to see value where others see nothing, to recognize opportunity where others overlook it, and to act before it's too late, because sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest fortunes, and maybe, just maybe, that fortune is already in your hands. If you found this story inspiring, take it as a sign. Start searching, start learning, and start believing that your next great discovery could be sitting right under your nose. The next record-breaking penny is out there. The only question is, will you be the one to find it? Back in 1953, the United States was thriving in the post-war boom. Gas was 20 cents a gallon, a loaf of bread cost 14 cents, and the Lincoln wheat penny was in every American's pocket. It was the everyday coin, humble and common. Millions of them were struck that year at the Denver Mint. So how could one of them possibly be worth nearly $600,000 today? The answer lies hidden in the small details, the kind you might overlook unless you know exactly where to look. But here's the twist. The most valuable 1953 pennies aren't rare by accident. They're rare because of human error. The tiniest imperfections that turned an ordinary coin into an extraordinary treasure. Collectors and dealers call these mint errors. Some of these 1953 wheat pennies were struck with double dies, misaligned designs, or even planchets made from the wrong metal. These mistakes, invisible to the average eye, are what make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a fortune. And believe it or not, one such coin recently sold for an astounding $581,000 at auction. Imagine that. A coin that cost 1 cent to make in 1953, now worth more than a luxury car, more than many people's retirement accounts. You could be holding history in your hand without even realizing it. Now you might be thinking, come on, how rare can these really be? There must be millions of them out there. True. But that's what makes this story so thrilling. There are millions of 1953 pennies, yes, but only a tiny fraction have these rare minting errors. Out of those millions, only a handful are known to exist in pristine condition. That scarcity is what drives collectors wild and what can drive prices through the roof. Here's where it gets interesting. When the Denver Mint struck the 1953 coins, they used steel dies to imprint the design, the familiar image of President Lincoln on one side, and those 2 stalks of wheat on the reverse. Over time, these dies wore down. Some developed microscopic cracks, others doubled slightly in the engraving process. To the naked eye, it might look like a shadow on the date or a faint blur in the word liberty. But to a trained collector, that tiny imperfection is like a signature, a unique fingerprint that says, this coin is one of a kind. And when a coin is one of a kind, collectors will pay anything to own it. So why does this matter to you? Because coins like this are still out there, in jars, in drawers, in dusty collections passed down from grandparents. Every day, people are discovering that the old change they've ignored for decades is actually worth thousands, or in rare cases, millions. Here's the emotional punch. Most people will never know. They'll spend that penny or worse, give it away without realizing what they had. It's like throwing away a winning lottery ticket because it didn't look valuable. And that, my friend, is why knowing what to look for can literally change your life. Let's talk about the details. The 1953 D penny with the D mint mark under the date means it was made in Denver. Check that first. Next, look at the color and shine. Coins that retain their original red luster, the brilliant copper tone, can fetch far higher prices than dull or worn ones. But the real treasure lies in the minting flaws. If the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile shows doubling, where lines appear faintly duplicated, you may be looking at a double die variety, one of the most sought-after types of mint errors. And then, of course, there's the grade. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70 by professional organizations like PCGS or NGC. A 1953 D penny graded MS-67 with full red luster and flawless surfaces is worth tens of thousands of dollars. Move that up just a single grade to MS-68, and you're talking hundreds of thousands. One tiny step, one level of perfection. That's the difference between pocket change and generational wealth. You might be laughing right now, thinking, it's just a penny. But isn't that the beauty of it? Something so small, so common, hiding such enormous potential. It's almost poetic. The humble penny, overlooked by millions, holding the power to change one person's life forever. So let's pause for a moment. Take a breath. Picture this. You open that old cigar box in your attic, the one filled with loose coins. You sift through, half distracted, until you spot a 1953 D wheat penny. You hold it to the light, and there's something about it, something different. Maybe it's the shine, maybe it's a subtle double outline in the numbers. You feel a jolt of excitement. Could this be it? Could this be the one? That feeling, that blend of curiosity, hope, and discovery, is exactly what drives the world of rare coin collecting. It's not just about money. It's about connection to history, to craftsmanship, to moments frozen in metal. Every coin tells a story, and some stories are worth a fortune. But here's the kicker. This window of opportunity won't stay open forever. As time passes, fewer and fewer of these coins survive in top condition. Collectors are snapping them up, grading them, and locking them away in private collections. The supply is shrinking, and when supply drops while demand skyrockets, you already know what happens next. Values soar. Right now, the rare coin market in the U.S. is booming. Auction houses are reporting record-breaking prices across every category, and Lincoln wheat pennies are leading the charge. The nostalgia of American heritage, combined with tangible physical value, is fueling a surge in interest among collectors and investors alike. So, what does this mean for you? It means the time to act is now. If you've been sitting on old coins waiting for the right moment, this is it. Don't let another day pass before you check those pennies. Because every minute that ticks by, another person could be cashing in on the opportunity you're missing. Here's a humorous thought. Somewhere out there, someone might be using a $500,000 penny in a coin jar at a gas station right now. It's funny, and yet it's true. Rarity hides in plain sight. The best part? You don't need to be an expert to start. You just need curiosity and the willingness to learn. Grab a magnifying glass, look closely at your 1953 D pennies, and compare them to verified error coins online. And if you find something promising, get it professionally appraised. Now let's talk about the future, because this isn't just about finding a rare penny. It's about understanding how small opportunities can lead to massive rewards. It's about cultivating awareness and seizing moments others overlook. The same mindset that helps you spot a rare coin can help you recognize value in business, in investments, in life. Think of it this way. The 1953 D wheat penny isn't just a coin, it's a symbol. A symbol of how something ordinary can become extraordinary when time, rarity, and opportunity collide. So, what's stopping you from taking that first step? Fear of disappointment? Don't let it hold you back, because the only true loss is never checking, never trying, never discovering what you might already own. People often say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But in the world of numismatics, the study of coins, truth is often stranger than fiction. The stories of ordinary Americans uncovering small fortunes from pocket change are very real, and the next one could be yours. As the market for collectible coins continues to heat up, experts predict that the top-tier 1953 D wheat pennies could climb even higher in value. Some estimate that the next sale could break the $600,000 mark. Imagine holding that level of potential in something so small it fits between your fingers. And here's a final thought to leave you with. Every great discovery in history started the same way, with someone curious enough to look closer. The Wright brothers looked closer at flight. Edison looked closer at light. And coin collectors? They look closer at history. So tonight when you're home, go ahead. Open that jar, that drawer, that old box in the closet. Pick up those pennies. Look at them differently this time, because that little piece of copper could hold a story worth telling. And maybe, just maybe, a fortune worth claiming. The 1953 D Lincoln Wheat penny reminds us that wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. And sometimes it jingles softly in your pocket, waiting for you to notice. Don't let it be the one that got away. Your next great discovery could be as small as a penny and as valuable as your future. Today, we're diving deep into the mysterious world of the 1956 D wheat penny. Why is this tiny coin making millionaires? What makes it so valuable? And how could you find one hidden in your own pocket change or coin jar? Stay tuned until the very end, because the truth behind this coin's astronomical value will shock you, and knowing it could change your life. Let's start with a story. Picture this. It's a quiet afternoon in Denver, Colorado, in the year 1956. Inside the United States Mint, millions of fresh Lincoln pennies are being struck. The machines clank rhythmically, turning copper blanks into shining coins bearing Abraham Lincoln's familiar face. Over 1.1 billion pennies rolled out that year, just another day at the Mint. But within that enormous sea of copper, a few rare pieces emerged, flawed, different, and unknowingly destined to become treasures decades later. Fast forward to modern times. A coin collector at a local flea market spots an old penny, pays a few dollars for it, and later sends it for professional grading. When the results come back, his heart almost stops. The 1956 D Lincoln Wheat penny he just bought for pocket change is valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why? Because of a rare minting error that transformed this humble coin into a piece of American history and a collector's dream. Now, before we go deeper, let's pause for a moment. Be honest. Have you ever glanced at your old coins, shrugged, and tossed them into a jar? Maybe one sitting right there on your kitchen counter, the same design you've seen 1,000 times. But what if that coin is your ticket to a better life? To the freedom, wealth, and legacy you've always wanted to create? It's almost funny, isn't it? We chase investments, stocks, and crypto. And yet, the biggest treasure could literally be jingling in your pocket. The 1956 D wheat penny looks ordinary at first glance. On the front, you see Lincoln's portrait. On the back, 2 wheat ears framing the words 1 cent. It's made mostly of copper with a tiny bit of tin and zinc. But what makes this coin so special isn't the metal. It's the story behind the mint mark, the D beneath the date, and the hidden errors that slipped past quality control almost 70 years ago. You see, most 1956 D pennies are worth just a few cents today, but some, just a tiny handful, were struck twice by the die, causing what's known as a doubled die error. In other words, the inscriptions, especially Liberty and In God We Trust, appear slightly doubled when viewed under magnification. This subtle imperfection, invisible to most people, is what turns a simple penny into a 6-figure prize. And that's not all. Other rare variations include off-center strikes, die cracks, and repunched mint marks, where the D for Denver was accidentally stamped twice. Each tiny imperfection tells a story, a moment when human error met historical timing. The result? One of the most coveted pennies in numismatic history. But here's where things get really interesting. You might think these rare coins are all locked away in museums or private collections, right? Wrong. Many of these extraordinary pennies are still out there, hidden in old jars, passed down through generations, or tucked away in dusty boxes of inherited change. There are even verified reports of people finding rare 1956 D varieties in circulation today. Just imagine, you hand over a penny for your morning coffee, not realizing you've just spent $500,000. It's almost terrifying to think about. The fear of losing out on something life-changing simply because we didn't pay attention. That's the emotional sting that hits collectors. And it's what drives the passion, the thrill of the hunt. Every coin is a story waiting to be discovered. Now, if you're wondering how a coin that's nearly 70 years old could still command a value of $566,000, the answer lies in three things: rarity, condition, and demand. Let's unpack that first: rarity. Out of more than 1 billion 1956D pennies minted, only a few dozen are known to have major errors. Think about those odds. Finding one is like finding a diamond in a field of sand. Second, condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70 by professional services like PCGS or NGC. A coin graded as MS67 or higher, that's mint state, meaning nearly flawless, can skyrocket in value. That's exactly what happened with the $566,000 sale. The coin was graded almost perfect, with its luster and details preserved like it had just rolled off the press yesterday. And third, demand. The 1956D penny sits at a sweet spot in American nostalgia. It's from the era of Eisenhower, classic cars, and post-war prosperity. Collectors love it because it represents the golden age of American coinage, a time before machines were fully automated, when small human errors could create treasures by accident. Now, if you've made it this far, you might be feeling a mix of excitement and curiosity, maybe even a little anxiety. You're probably thinking, okay, but how do I know if I have one? Don't worry, I've got you covered. Start by checking any 1956 pennies you have. Look for the small D under the date. That means it was minted in Denver. Under bright light or a magnifying glass, inspect the lettering on Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see any doubling, even the slightest, your coin could be worth serious money. Also, check the mint mark itself. A repunched D that looks thicker or shadowed could be another key to high value. Here's a quick tip. Handle your coins carefully. Oils and scratches can dramatically reduce their value. Always use cotton gloves and never clean your coin. It may sound counterintuitive, but cleaning actually destroys their collectible worth. Now, here's a funny question. How many of you have ever accidentally vacuumed up spare change? Yeah, don't do that. Especially now that you know what could be hiding in there. If you think you've found something special, your next step is to get it professionally graded. The grading process authenticates your coin and provides a certificate, a golden ticket in the collector's world. Reputable services include the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC. Once graded, you can sell your coin at major auction houses, online platforms like Heritage Auctions, or directly to collectors. But here's the thrilling part. Prices for rare 1956D pennies are climbing fast. The market is heating up because more Americans are realizing the potential hidden in their coin collections. Just like gold and real estate, collectible coins are seen as tangible assets that can hedge against inflation. We're living in a time when people are searching for alternative investments, assets that are stable, rare, and historically significant. The 1956D wheat penny checks every one of those boxes. And when you realize that a single penny can change your financial destiny, it's no longer just a hobby. It's a movement. Let's pause for a moment. Imagine holding one of these coins in your hand. The weight of history, the gleam of copper, the silent whisper of possibility. It's not just metal, it's a time capsule, a connection to America's past, and perhaps your future wealth. But here's where the urgency comes in. The number of undiscovered error coins is shrinking fast. As collectors and dealers hunt them down, fewer and fewer remain in circulation. Every year that passes, it becomes less likely that another will surface. That's why now, right now, is the best time to check your coins. To dig through that old collection in your attic. To look at what you might have overlooked for decades. You might laugh, but there's something poetic about the idea that wealth could be hiding in plain sight. It's almost a metaphor for life. How often do we overlook the opportunities right in front of us because we assume they're just ordinary? The 1956D wheat penny reminds us that sometimes greatness hides behind the simplest appearances, and maybe that's why collectors are so passionate. It's not just about the money, though the money certainly helps. It's about discovery, about unlocking a mystery that's been waiting quietly for you to notice it. So what should you do next? Start searching. Check your coin jars, your inherited collections, those boxes of change in your garage. Look closely at every penny from the 1950s, especially those with a Denver mint mark. Study the lettering, the date, the details, because you never know. You might be holding a coin worth $566,000 or more. And here's the final twist. Experts believe there could still be undiscovered 1956D double-die varieties yet to be found. Think about that. Somewhere, right now, maybe in a small town, maybe in your home, a penny worth of fortune is waiting. And the person who finds it could join the growing list of everyday Americans who turned a single coin into a life-changing windfall. Before we wrap up, let's leave on this thought. The difference between a penny and a fortune isn't luck. It's awareness. The people who pay attention, who take the time to learn, are the ones who find the treasures the world overlooks. So go ahead. Open that coin jar tonight. Who knows? Your next step toward wealth might be hiding in the palm of your hand. And if you do find a 1956D wheat penny with that rare doubling or mint mark, remember, you're not just holding copper. You're holding history, legacy, and the chance to transform your financial future forever. Your story could be next. There are coins that whisper their value, and then there are coins that guard it. The year was 1941, a world on the brink of chaos. War clouds gathered over Europe, and America stood at a crossroads between peace and conflict. Factories roared, families rationed, and the Philadelphia Mint quietly struck millions of Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coins. The humble copper discs meant to pass through countless hands, buying bread, candy, and dreams. But among those millions, a few, perhaps only a handful, were different. Different enough to one day command a value higher than most homes. Different enough to ignite a fever in the hearts of collectors across generations. So what makes a simple 1941 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark worth hundreds of thousands? Or even, according to some market records, nearly $1 million. Let's go deeper, beyond the copper, beyond the patina into the psychology, the mystery, and the enduring allure that turns ordinary pocket change into priceless history. At first glance, a 1941 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin seems unremarkable. Over 887 million were minted in Philadelphia alone, each weighing about 3.11 grams, composed primarily of copper and bearing Victor David Brenner's timeless portrait of Lincoln in quiet dignity. No mint mark sits beneath the date, a silent indicator of its Philadelphia origin. And yet, in numismatics, quantity rarely tells the whole story. Because among those hundreds of millions, a few were struck with such astonishing precision, such mirror-like surfaces and razor-sharp details that they became what collectors call proof-like business, strikes. Others were born from dies that were overused or improperly polished, creating doubling die cracks or off-center strikes, unique fingerprints in the metal that separate the extraordinary from the ordinary. One coin, found decades later, shimmered with such perfection that seasoned graders paused. It wasn't just the condition, it was how it had survived. Original red luster, no visible wear. The Lincoln profile rising crisp from the field as though freshly struck yesterday. When that specimen was graded a near-perfect mint state 68 red, it stunned the market. The hammer price? Over $800,000, but why? Why would someone pay nearly $1 million for a coin that once cost a single cent? Because in rare coin collecting, perfection is power. For many investors and collectors, the true value of a coin lies not only in its age or metal content, but in its condition, rarity, and story. A 1941 Philadelphia 1-cent coin in average circulated grade might be worth only a few cents. But when that same coin surfaces in pristine, untouched condition, when it glows as if time itself never touched it, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a relic of America before Pearl Harbor, a tangible echo of a nation's innocence, when Lincoln's face symbolized endurance through hardship. That emotional connection is where the market magic happens. Collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying meaning. They're buying a moment in history that still breathes. Consider this. In the early 2000s, the average high-grade 1941 Lincoln 1-cent coin sold for under $10,000. But as grading standards sharpened and population reports revealed just how few top-condition survivors existed, Demand began to surge. Investors realized that scarcity in top grades, not age alone, drives exponential growth. It's not about how many coins were made. It's about how many still exist in mint-perfect condition, a new generation of collectors, often blending passion with investment strategy, began chasing registry sets, the highest-graded examples of every coin, year, and mint. The 1941 Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark suddenly became a cornerstone of that quest. Because to complete perfection, you need the impossible piece. And there are fewer than 5 known examples of that quality in the world. But let's pull back from the auction floor for a moment. Why do coins like this fascinate us so deeply? Maybe it's because they represent something timeless in an age of digital decay. A coin is real, heavy, eternal. It doesn't flicker out when a battery dies. It carries fingerprints, history, and stories. The 1941 Lincoln 1 cent coin is more than a numismatic treasure. It's a witness. It's seen pockets of factory workers and the hands of school children during wartime. It's heard the crackle of old radios announcing battles overseas. It's felt the passing of decades, quietly waiting for someone to notice what it truly was. And when someone does, when a collector recognizes the subtle gleam of uncirculated brilliance, the reward isn't just monetary. It's spiritual. It's the thrill of rediscovery, the quiet victory of preserving something nearly lost to time. But the market itself, like the tides, shifts in mysterious ways. During the global financial crises of the past decades, tangible assets surged: gold, silver, and yes, rare coins. Collectors who once bought out of nostalgia found themselves part of a growing investment movement. Coin grading companies like PCGS and NGC provided transparency and authentication, turning once private hobbies into legitimate, trackable asset classes. And as global wealth expanded, especially among younger entrepreneurs and investors seeking alternative stores of value, coins like the 1941 Lincoln 1 cent entered a new chapter. They were no longer just heirlooms. They became legacy instruments, wealth you could hold and pass down, immune to the whims of digital markets. Here's a curious truth. The very coin that could be hiding in a forgotten jar, resting quietly in a drawer, might also be the key to generational wealth, but only if you know what to look for. Look closely, under magnification, and you might see tiny doubling on Lincoln's date or the letters of liberty. That could signify a double die worth thousands. Examine the fields. If the copper remains bright, the luster original, the strike sharp, you could be holding a near mint specimen. Even minor variations, a slightly misaligned die, a faint off-center strike, or exceptionally clean fields can dramatically affect value. To the untrained eye, it's just a penny. To a numismatist, it's a possible fortune disguised in copper. Of course, not every 1941 1-cent coin will yield riches. Most are reminders of how common becomes precious only through rarity, condition, and story. But therein lies the beauty of the hunt, that endless possibility. Every collector knows the feeling. The pulse quickens when a coin slides from an old envelope, the gleam catching the light just right. You lean closer, heart racing, wondering, could this be the one? It's not just about value. It's about legacy, because a coin like this doesn't just enrich a wallet, it enriches a lineage. It gives future generations a physical connection to the past. A grandfather handing down his collection doesn't just pass on metal discs, he passes on patience, curiosity, and the belief that small things, when preserved, become monuments of time. So what should you take away from the legend of the 1941 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin? First, never underestimate what seems ordinary. Every fortune ever found in coin collecting began with someone who looked closer. Second, understand that in today's market, the rarest opportunities often hide in plain sight. While investors chase trends and stocks, true collectors seek stories in copper and silver. And third, remember that the value of these coins is not fixed. It's alive, influenced by grading populations, economic conditions, and the emotional current of the collector's world. When a coin like the 1941 Lincoln cent crosses the auction block, it's not just being sold, it's being revered. A moment where history, artistry, and human desire intersect. Here's a question worth pondering. What other treasures lie forgotten in America's drawers and coffee tins? How many of us have unknowingly held a piece of history, only to let it slip back into circulation? It's a humbling thought, and an inspiring one, because in the world of coins, discovery never ends. Every year, new varieties, new minting errors, and new condition rarities are uncovered, often by everyday people who simply paid attention. The next great find isn't in a museum. It might be in your own home. The story of the 1941 Lincoln 1-cent coin reminds us that wealth and legacy aren't just built in boardrooms or digital ledgers. Sometimes they're built in small acts of awareness, of noticing the extraordinary within the ordinary. And maybe, just maybe, that's why coin collecting endures when so many other pursuits fade. It combines intellect, emotion, and imagination. It rewards patience and curiosity, the two traits that built civilizations. When you hold a coin like that in your hand, smooth, cool, perfectly struck, you're not just holding money. You're holding memory, a bridge between generations, a secret only a few have the wisdom to see, and for the lucky few who uncover one of those flawless 1941 Lincoln 1-cent coins from Philadelphia, that secret might just be worth more than gold. So tonight, when the world quiets down and the lights dim, pull out that old jar of coins. Let the copper glint beneath your lamp. Run your thumb along the rim. Look closer at the date, 1941, no mint mark beneath it. No fanfare. Just a quiet survivor from a world at war, and ask yourself, could this be one of them? Because sometimes the difference between a penny and a priceless treasure is nothing more than the eye that sees it. In 1944, as American soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy and the nation's factories thundered for victory, something remarkable happened in the quiet corridors of the Philadelphia Mint. A single coin, ordinary to the eye, yet extraordinary in its story, slipped into circulation. An Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin without a mint mark, and with it, a secret that would ripple through generations of collectors, investors, and dreamers chasing one question. Could this humble cent be worth nearly $1 million? Picture it. 1944. The United States was deep in World War II. Copper was scarce, redirected to ammunition, electrical wiring, and every piece of machinery that kept the Allies moving forward. The Mint had switched to zinc-coated steel planchets in 1943 to conserve copper, creating the famous steel cents. By 1944, production returned to copper, but not perfectly. A few leftover steel planchets from 1943 somehow found their way back into the presses. The result? A handful of coins that defied logic. The 1944 Lincoln cents, made of steel instead of copper, became accidental masterpieces. Some bore mint marks, but the rarest of all emerged from the Philadelphia Mint, where no mark was struck at all. This no mint mark anomaly wasn't a design flaw. It was an oversight, a whisper from history that turned into a shout among collectors. And today, when one of these elusive pieces surfaces, it can command more than $800,000. But what makes this tiny coin, just 1 cent, so valuable that collectors would fight, bid, and outlast each other for the chance to hold it? Part of the answer lies in rarity, yes, but it's deeper than that. Rarity without story is mere scarcity. What collectors truly chase is meaning, a connection between the metal and the moment. That 1944 no mint mark steel cent represents a perfect collision of human error and historical gravity. It's the embodiment of a nation stretched to its limits, a snapshot of ingenuity under pressure, and the unintentional artistry of imperfection for the collector who holds it. It's not just a coin, it's a relic of America's resilience, a time capsule small enough to slip into a pocket, yet powerful enough to evoke the spirit of a generation that rebuilt the world. And that, perhaps, is why coins like this ignite such passion. They don't just carry value in dollars, they carry identity, pride, and memory. Now, here's where the story takes a twist. Most people have heard of the 1943 copper cents, those mistakes that became miracles. But few realize that the 1944 steel cents are their opposite twins. While the 1943 coins were accidentally struck in copper when steel was intended, the 1944 steel cents were struck in steel when copper was meant to return. It's a mirror image of history's own confusion, a single year dividing two worlds. Think about that. Two errors, each the reverse of the other, both commanding six-figure prices. It's almost poetic, like a dialogue between the years. One whispering to the next across the minting presses. For the trained eye, identifying the 1944 no-mint mark steel cent is a delicate art. The weight tells the first secret, 2.7 grams instead of the usual 3.11. A magnet tells the next. Steel clings, copper does not. Under magnification, the silvery gray surface gives itself away, smooth yet ghostly, as though time itself had left fingerprints. Yet, thousands of people still mistake ordinary coins for these legends. Every week, online listings appear claiming 1944 rare penny found. But true collectors know that only a handful are genuine. The last verified sale? Over $800,000. Why such obsession? Because coin collecting, especially in America, isn't just a hobby. It's a quiet rebellion against forgetfulness. Every coin is a clue. Every scratch a breadcrumb leading back through history. For those who buy, sell, and hold them, these small artifacts represent permanence in a world that changes too quickly. Consider this. When you hold an Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin from the 1940s, you're touching the same kind of coin that may have passed through the hands of a soldier mailing his last letter home, or a mother buying bread with ration stamps in her purse. That tactile connection between human experience and enduring metal is what transforms collectors into stewards of history. And when a coin like the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent appears, it's not just valuable because it's rare. It's valuable because it resurrects a moment we can never return to. But here's the secret few outside the numismatic world understand. Value isn't fixed. It breathes. It shifts with emotion, with markets, with the tides of time. During economic uncertainty, investors turn toward tangible assets, gold, silver, art, and increasingly rare coins. Unlike stocks, a coin can't vanish overnight. Its worth is both emotional and intrinsic. The 1944 steel cent, for example, is more than a commodity. It's a status symbol among serious collectors, a badge of discernment and legacy, and as the number of surviving specimens dwindles, demand sharpens. Private auctions whisper with anticipation. Phone bids climb. Dealers nod silently, knowing that once the gavel falls, history changes hands. Imagine for a moment. You're at such an auction. The room is quiet. Velvet chairs, polished wood, the smell of old paper and anticipation. The auctioneer raises a small display tray. Inside lies a single coin, shimmering faintly under the light. Lot number 72, he says. A 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent, confirmed steel composition. Graded MS-64 by PCGS. A murmur passes through the crowd. Someone clears their throat. The opening bid, $100,000. Within seconds, it's doubled. Then tripled. Hearts quicken, not because of greed, but because of awe. The bidders know they're witnessing something irreplaceable. When the hammer falls, the final bid echoes like a gunshot through time. $812,000. That's not just a sale, it's a testament. Proof that value isn't only what the market dictates, but what human fascination sustains. And here's a question worth pondering. How many of these treasures are still out there, hidden in plain sight? Could one rest quietly in a jar of coins at your grandmother's house? Could it be tucked inside a collection you inherited but never sorted? That's the thrill and the haunting beauty of numismatics. Every coin has potential until proven ordinary. And the possibility, however slim, fuels generations of seekers. It's why metal detectors hum across old fairgrounds. It's why estate sales draw hushed excitement. It's why a single cent can still make headlines 80 years later. For those who collect seriously, the pursuit isn't just financial, it's philosophical. Each coin represents control over time, over legacy. To own something that has survived wars, recessions, and revolutions is to remind oneself that value, true value, endures. When collectors speak of provenance, They don't just mean paperwork. They mean storyline. A coin without a story is a mute object. But a coin like the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent speaks with the voice of an era. It carries whispers of wartime shortages, the hum of mint machinery, the pulse of a nation that refused to falter. And when such a coin finds its way into your hands, it's not just ownership. It's participation in a continuing story that began long before you and will continue long after. But here's a twist of irony. The man whose image graces that coin, Abraham Lincoln, was himself a symbol of endurance, integrity, and quiet strength. How fitting, then, that one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever made bears his likeness. It's almost poetic justice that a symbol of equality, freedom, and humble beginnings would adorn a coin that now represents wealth beyond measure. Yet even Lincoln might have smiled at the irony. A 1-cent piece commanding hundreds of thousands of dollars. Proof, perhaps, that in America, even the smallest beginnings can lead to unimaginable worth. Of course, for every collector who dreams of finding that steel cent, there are thousands of imitators and counterfeits. Technology can mimic almost anything today, but authenticity is still the ultimate currency. Professional graders, those at the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, serve as modern-day gatekeepers. Their expertise, their certifications, transform speculation into certainty. Without them, trust in the market would crumble. So if you ever think you've found one, pause. Handle it with gloves. Test it gently with a magnet. Then seek confirmation from a reputable expert. Because in numismatics, every legend demands proof. And maybe that's the most profound lesson this coin teaches, that value hides in plain sight. But it reveals itself only to those patient enough to look closer. The 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln. 1 cent reminds us that mistakes can become masterpieces, that history can live quietly in the smallest spaces, and that fortune often favors the curious. Collectors understand this better than anyone. They know that every drawer, every attic box, every coin roll from the bank is a potential time capsule, that behind each worn face of Lincoln might lie a story waiting to be rediscovered. And for those who search, not out of greed, but out of love for legacy, the reward isn't only monetary. It's the thrill of uncovering a truth history nearly forgot. So tonight, as you sift through that jar of old coins, pause for a moment. Feel the weight of history in your palm. Listen to the quiet echo of decades gone by. And remember, among billions of ordinary cents, a single extraordinary one changed lives and proved that even the smallest piece of metal can hold the power of a nation's story. Maybe the next one to surface will be yours. Have you ever held a simple copper coin in your hand and wondered if it might be worth more than your car? Maybe even your home? Imagine this: a small brown coin from 1948 with no mint mark at all, quietly resting in a forgotten drawer. To most, it's pocket change, but to a trained collector's eye, it's a potential fortune, a whisper from America's post-war era carrying a value today that can exceed $800,000. This is not fiction. It's a chapter from the strange, beautiful world of numismatics, where history, metal, and mystery converge to turn everyday objects into priceless relics. Let's begin where most treasure stories do, with something easily overlooked. In 1948, the United States was redefining itself. The war had ended just 3 years prior, and factories that once built weapons were now minting coins again. Copper was abundant, morale was high, and the Lincoln 1 cent coin, the humble continuation of Victor David Brenner's 1909 design, was being struck by the millions at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. But hidden in that ocean of coins, a few were born with anomalies, tiny imperfections, barely visible to the naked eye, that would one day make collectors' hearts race. And among them, the 1948 Lincoln 1 cent coin with no mint mark from the Philadelphia Mint holds a particularly curious tale. At first glance, it appears ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's solemn profile facing right, the date 1948 below, and no mint mark. typical for Philadelphia coinage of that era. Yet something extraordinary can lie beneath its unassuming surface. A rare blend of sharp die strikes, uncirculated luster, and sometimes microscopic doubling in the letters or date that make a few surviving specimens breathtakingly valuable. Now here's where it gets intriguing. A genuine 1948 no-mint mark Lincoln. 1-cent coin in mint state condition, meaning it escaped circulation entirely, can fetch thousands. But when the right combination of brilliance, perfect strike, and unique die characteristics converge, the market has witnessed prices soaring beyond $800,000. Why? Because rarity in coins isn't just about how few were made. It's about how few survived the decades untouched by human hands. Think of it. Every coin is born perfect, then begins to deteriorate the moment it leaves the mint. Scratches, pocket wear, and oxidation destroy the pristine surfaces collectors crave. So when a 77-year-old coin emerges from an old roll or estate untouched, gleaming as if struck yesterday, it becomes a time capsule, a relic of America's post-war optimism preserved in metal. But what exactly makes some 1948 cents command staggering sums? That's where the psychology of collecting meets the economics of rarity. Collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying story, survival, and significance. They're buying a tangible link to a moment in America's journey when hope was freshly minted. A 1948 Lincoln 1-cent coin isn't merely currency. It's a silent witness to Harry Truman's presidency, to families rebuilding after the war, to a country discovering prosperity again. And the Philadelphia Mint's version, bearing no mark at all, speaks even louder through its simplicity. No letter D, no S, just a clean field beneath the date, signifying the birthplace of U.S. coinage itself. But here's the twist few know. Not all no-mint mark coins are created equal. Some 1948 cents display subtle die errors, doubled dies, repunched dates, even faint ghost impressions from misaligned dies. To the untrained eye, these look like flaws. To a numismatist, they're signatures, fingerprints of imperfection that transform a coin from common to extraordinary. One such specimen, discovered in an old cigar box in the early 2000s, stunned the auction world when experts confirmed its near-flawless condition and unique doubling in the word liberty. Bidders from across the globe vied for it, driving. Its price passed $807,000. Not because it contained gold or silver, but because it was perfect, rare, and unrepeatable. Here's the strange truth. Perfection is the ultimate rarity. In the coin world, grades are everything. From poor to mint state 70, each number tells a story of preservation. And as you climb the scale, the value curve doesn't just rise, it explodes. A 1948 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent in fine condition might fetch only a few dollars, but find one graded MS-67 red, that deep, fiery tone of original copper brilliance, and you're suddenly looking at a six-figure treasure. Why the obsession? With color? Because copper ages like fruit. It darkens, tones, and spots. A bright, untouched red luster on a coin minted before television was common is an almost impossible survivor. Collectors will pay any price for it. It's a paradox. The smallest things often hold the greatest worth. And yet, there's another layer, something even deeper that explains why seasoned investors are now looking back to coins like the 1948 Lincoln cent. In a volatile economy where digital assets rise and fall overnight, tangible history has become a sanctuary. Unlike stocks or cryptocurrencies, a rare coin is a piece of the past you can hold. Its value is rooted not in hype, but in heritage. Each high-grade 1948 no-mint mark cent is like a share in America's story, backed by the ironclad truth of time itself. Still, one must wonder, how many of these hidden gems lie undiscovered? Numismatists estimate that less than 1% of all 1948 Philadelphia cents survive in uncirculated red condition today. Many were melted, spent, or tarnished beyond recognition, The odds of pulling one from an old jar or inherited collection are slimmer than winning most lotteries. Yet it happens, more often than you'd believe. There's a haunting beauty in that thought. Somewhere, perhaps in a dusty attic or beneath a coffee can of forgotten change, rests another coin that could rewrite someone's future. So how do you know if you've found one? Look for the shine, that coppery flame that refuses to dull. Examine Lincoln's cheek and coat lines. Are they sharp, unbroken, untouched by circulation? Check the edges, the date, the letters in God We Trust. A perfect strike reveals itself in the clarity of those tiny details. And most importantly, verify its authenticity through trusted grading services like PCGS or NGC, institutions that act as gatekeepers in a market built on precision and trust. Because in the high-stakes world of rare coins, reputation is currency. One misjudged detail, a faint cleaning mark, a hidden scratch, can slash value by tens of thousands. The difference between an $8 coin and an $800,000 one often lies under a microscope. That's why collectors speak of patience with almost spiritual reverence. The best numismatists don't chase hype. They wait, study, and recognize value before the crowd does. It's less gambling and more archaeology of wealth. And the 1948 No Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent coin exemplifies this perfectly. Quiet, historic, and underestimated for decades until the market finally caught up with its rarity. But beyond money, what draws people to coins like these? Perhaps it's the sense of permanence in an impermanent world. To hold something that has outlasted wars, recessions, and generations. To see the same gleam your grandparents once saw is to feel continuity in a way few modern assets can provide. Coins are small circles of time, immune to passing fads. That's why many seasoned collectors aren't just investors, they're legacy builders. They collect not only for profit, but to pass down something that endures. The thrill of finding a rare 1948 cent isn't just about wealth. It's about owning a tangible fragment of American endurance. Every coin tells a story, but some whisper secrets louder than others. And here's the ultimate secret. Sometimes the treasure isn't the coin itself. It's the discovery, the moment you realize that something ordinary in your possession is extraordinary in disguise. Think of the man who once spent a 1948 cent on a morning coffee, never knowing it could have bought the entire cafe today. Or the child who saved one in a jar, unknowingly protecting a six-figure heirloom. These small acts, unconscious, human, become the origin stories of modern fortune. As collectors, we chase those moments. We seek the thrill of unveiling history, of finding significance where others see none. And that's why the story of the 1948 No Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent coin will always capture imaginations. It embodies the very essence of numismatics, discovery, rarity, and the eternal hope that greatness hides in plain sight. So the next time you sift through a pile of old coins, pause. Hold that 1948 cent up to the light. Watch how it gleams. Ask yourself, could this be the one? Because somewhere, right now, someone is making that discovery, the difference between 1 cent and one life-changing moment. And if you listen closely, you might just hear history whispering through the copper. Fortune favors the observant. That's the true magic of coin collecting, not just wealth, but wonder. The 1948 No Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent coin isn't just a piece of metal. It's a reminder that value isn't always minted in gold. Sometimes it's hiding in copper, waiting for the right eyes to notice. So keep searching, keep learning, and never underestimate the smallest treasures in your collection, because in the world of rare coins, legends are often made from the humblest beginnings. Somewhere, a tiny coin minted in 1948 still waits to tell its story. Perhaps it's waiting for you. Imagine holding in your palm a simple copper coin, dull, unassuming, and barely heavier than a breath of air. It's a 1951 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin, struck without a mint mark. To most people, it's just another relic from a jar of forgotten change. But to a collector with trained eyes, It could be a portal into America's post-war era. And, in the rarest cases, a hidden fortune worth over $800,000. That's right. A single coin, minted for just 1 cent in 1951, has been known to command market values rivaling luxury homes. But what could possibly make an ordinary copper cent worth that much? Let's begin with a story of chance, precision, and the quiet drama that unfolds behind the doors of the United States Mint. In 1951, America was humming with optimism. The scars of World War II were healing, the Korean conflict was in motion, and the U.S. economy was growing fast. Millions of Lincoln cents poured out of the mints, Denver, San Francisco, and Philadelphia, each stamped with the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln first introduced in 1909. But in that sea of copper, something unusual occurred. The Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally omitted a mint mark, produced over 290 million of these 1-cent coins. To the naked eye, each looked identical. The same solemn Lincoln profile, the same wheat ears on the reverse, the same reddish sheen of copper alloy. Yet a few of these coins left the presses with subtle errors, rare die variations, or unusual metallic compositions that set them apart from the millions of their brethren. One such coin, a 1951 Philadelphia Lincoln 1 cent, surfaced decades later in pristine condition, graded by experts as virtually untouched. Under magnification, its strike was unusually sharp, its color deep with original luster. It fetched over $803,000 at auction. That number still stuns even veteran numismatists. Why? Because it shatters the assumption that only gold or silver holds enduring value. The true wealth in coinage, as seasoned collectors know, lies in rarity combined with condition, story, and timing, and the story behind the 1951 no mint mark Lincoln. 1 cent isn't just about metal. It's about history, human error, and the psychology of discovery. Picture this: a post-war mint technician inspecting the presses under fluorescent lights. One die slightly misaligned, another reused longer than intended. The difference might be invisible to an untrained observer, a minute doubling in Lincoln's eye, a faint shift in the word liberty, a barely perceptible imperfection in the rim. But those micro details, once detected, become gold in the eyes of collectors. It's almost poetic, a tiny imperfection creating immense value. But here's the part that truly fascinates seasoned investors. The value of these coins doesn't just come from their flaws, it comes from survivorship. Millions were minted, but only a handful survived the passage of time in immaculate condition. Most were spent, scratched, melted, or lost. The few that remained untouched became silent witnesses to 70 years of American change, from the Cold War to cryptocurrency. When one of these untouched specimens reemerges, the numismatic world stirs. Auction houses whisper, collectors watch, and prices rise. Yet many people, even those who've handled coins their whole lives, overlook this humble year, 1951. They chase the famous rarities, the 1943 copper cent, the 1909 SVDB, the 1955 double die. But sometimes the greatest opportunities are hiding where attention is weakest. In the ordinary years, the overlooked issues, the coins no one thinks twice about. That's the paradox of coin collecting. The most valuable treasures often begin as afterthoughts. Now, if you're wondering how to tell whether your 1951 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent might be one of those extraordinary survivors, there are clues, subtle but telling. First, condition is king. Coins graded mint state, especially those above MS-67 by professional services, are incredibly scarce. Even a small scratch can have the value. Second, luster and tone matter deeply. A coin that has preserved its original reddish copper shine, the fiery glow collectors call red brilliance, stands apart from those that have dulled to brown. Third, strike sharpness reveals mint quality. A strong, well-defined Lincoln portrait with crisp wheat lines on the reverse signals superior craftsmanship. And then come the errors and die varieties, the stuff of legend. A double die obverse, A repunched date or an off-center strike can multiply value exponentially. These are not the kind of details you see at first glance. They reveal themselves only under magnification and patience, but when spotted, they can turn a humble cent into a cornerstone of a legacy collection. Here's the psychological truth few talk about. Collectors are not just buying metal. They're buying a sense of immortality. Each coin, especially a rare one, becomes a bridge between generations, a tangible artifact that outlives its owners. It's why many collectors speak of their coins in the same tone art collectors reserve for paintings. A coin like the 1951 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent is not just an investment, it's a legacy vessel. But markets, of course, move with emotion. When stories like this surface, when an $800,000 sale makes headlines, it reignites public imagination. Search volumes spike, coin rolls disappear from bank vaults. People who haven't thought about pennies in decades begin checking their change again. It's a fascinating pattern. Every generation rediscovers the allure of hidden wealth in plain sight. Now, let's take a brief detour into numbers, not cold statistics, but clues that tell a larger truth. In 1951, the Philadelphia Mint struck precisely 284,576,000 Lincoln 1 cent coins. On paper, that's abundance. But among those, only a microscopic fraction, perhaps fewer than a few dozen, remain in flawless, mint-red preservation. That's what creates astronomical value. The market doesn't pay for age alone. It pays for survival against the odds, and the odds for coins in circulation are brutal. Over the decades, collectors estimate that fewer than 0.01% of 1951 no-mint mark cents could achieve the highest grading tiers. That's rarer than some gold coins, rarer even than certain 18th century colonial issues. So the question becomes, could one of these coins still be sitting unnoticed in a drawer, a coffee can, or a forgotten jar of change? It's possible. And that possibility, that electric what if, is what keeps the numismatic spirit alive. Think about it. Every serious collector today began with a moment like that, a coin that caught their attention, a story that refused to let go. The 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent embodies that moment perfectly. It teaches patience, attention to detail, and the quiet thrill of discovery in a world that moves too fast. Here's another twist many don't expect. The 1951 Lincoln 1 cent represents one of the last years before the U.S. Mint's major compositional changes. Just 2 years later, during the 1950s transition, refining processes and metal sources shifted subtly due to rising costs and supply adjustments. This gives 1951 issues a special historical fingerprint, the last breath of pure, post-war copper craftsmanship. It's like owning a final page in a chapter of American metallurgy. Now, you might be wondering what drives someone to pay $803,000 for such a coin. The answer lies at the crossroads of economics and emotion. Wealthy collectors often seek blue-chip coins, those with impeccable provenance and documented rarity. When one of these appears at auction, it's not just a purchase. It's a statement, a declaration that the buyer understands something deeper about value, that not all treasures glitter, and once such a record is set, it resets the entire market psychology. Prices for near-perfect examples rise. Collectors who once ignored 1951 cents suddenly start hunting them down. It's a ripple effect that turns whispers into waves, but there's a deeper message beneath the market excitement. This story reminds us that history rewards attention. The same discipline that helps a collector find a hidden gem is the discipline that builds wealth, legacy, and foresight. Every coin is a lesson in patience, minted, circulated, forgotten, and rediscovered by those who care enough to look closer. So the next time you find an old Abraham Lincoln 1 cent coin without a mint mark, don't rush to dismiss it. Study it under light. Look for the quiet shimmer of original copper. Examine Lincoln's eye, the rim, the wheat stalks, the date. Ask yourself, has this coin been waiting 70 years to reveal its secret? Sometimes the line between pocket, change, and priceless artifact is just one moment of awareness, and perhaps that's the real treasure. The realization that in the smallest corners of our history lie echoes of immense value. In a way, The 1951 Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark is a mirror of America itself. Modest origins, extraordinary endurance, and an untold story for those who look deeper. It started as a single cent, the humblest denomination. Yet today it stands as a testament to the power of preservation, rarity, and belief in the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. So keep searching, keep learning, because every collector, no matter how experienced, is still one discovery away from rewriting their own legacy. And who knows, maybe the next 1951. Abraham Lincoln, 1 cent worth $803,000, isn't sitting in a museum or an auction vault. Maybe it's sitting quietly in your hands right now. How can something so ordinary, so small, hold the potential to rewrite a person's financial story? The answer lies buried within one of the most mysterious moments in the history of the Denver Mint. In 1958, as the post-war boom filled America's pockets with freshly struck Lincoln cents, a rare anomaly escaped the Denver Mint presses, a coin so elusive that only a handful are known to exist. One of them later surfaced in pristine, uncirculated condition and was valued at nearly $795,000. But the story isn't just about money. It's about legacy, luck, and the strange alchemy that turns copper into gold. The 1950s were an era of industrial precision, or so people thought. The mint was modernizing, automation was improving, and the idea of a major error coin seemed almost impossible. But sometimes, it's precisely when humans trust machines the most that mistakes slip through. In the case of the 1958 Denver Lincoln cent, that mistake created a masterpiece. Collectors call it the 1958 double die obverse, a coin where Lincoln's features and the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" appear doubled. The doubling isn't subtle. It's bold, almost ghostly, as if the coin was stamped with two overlapping realities. For decades, few believed such a version even existed. The mint never officially recorded it. No public announcement was made. Yet whispers circulated among collectors that somewhere hidden in rolls of copper coins was a mysterious 1958 D with a doubled image, a coin that shouldn't exist, but somehow did. Here's where the story turns fascinating. The earliest confirmed specimen didn't emerge until decades later. By then, the numismatic world had already seen incredible rarities: the 1943 copper cent, the 1909 SVDB, the 1914 D. But the 1958 double die from Denver was different, not just scarce, but enigmatic. Its origin remains unsolved. Some believe it was a trial strike, an accidental overlap of two working dies. Others think it might have been produced intentionally, a quiet experiment that slipped past inspection. A few even whisper that Mint employees might have pocketed one before the error was caught. Whatever the truth, the coin became a legend. And legends in the world of numismatics drive value more powerfully than gold. Why does this matter to you? The collector, the investor, the dreamer who runs your fingers across stacks of wheatback cents under a magnifying glass at midnight? Because this story proves that treasure still hides in plain sight. Even today, rolls of 1950s Lincoln cents, often sold in bulk for a few dollars, might contain a life-changing piece of American history. It's happened before. Ordinary people have found extraordinary coins buried in coffee cans, tucked into family savings jars, or inherited from relatives who never realized their value. Think about it. What if your next flea market find, your next estate auction purchase, or your next coin roll hunt revealed the faint, telltale doubling on a 1958 D? What if the coin in your hand carried a story so rare that only 3 or 4 others like it are known to exist? Now, let's talk about why collectors and investors chase these coins with such passion, and what it reveals about human nature. Numismatics isn't just about profit. It's about proof. Proof that rarity can emerge from routine, that beauty can come from imperfection. When a coin like the 1958 double die D cent surfaces, it shakes the foundation of predictability. It reminds us that history is still alive, that even in the age of digital everything, tangible artifacts of error and chance still matter. Each coin is a frozen moment in time, a mechanical heartbeat from the mint, sealed in metal, traveling through generations. And for those who collect, it's more than a hobby. It's a quiet rebellion against disposability. Here's a surprising truth. As of today, fewer than 5 authentic examples of the 1958 double-die obverse are confirmed. Only 3 have been certified by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and their condition determines astronomical value differences. One pristine example, graded MS65 red, shocked the market when it was valued near $795,000. The doubling was clear. The surface is flawless, the color deep and copper bright. It was, in every sense, a miracle of preservation. But here's the twist, and a question worth asking. How many others could exist, still unseen, in private hands? That uncertainty fuels the hunt. It keeps collectors awake at night, scanning eBay listings, rifling through inherited rolls, checking each coin under angled light. Because every coin hunter knows that once in a while, history rewards persistence. And here's something the casual observer might not realize. Markets follow psychology, not logic. When a story like this captures the imagination of collectors, the demand surges. Prices climb. Even ordinary 1958 Lincoln cents, common as they are, begin to gain a small premium, buoyed by the shadow of their rarer cousin. The emotional magnetism of the story becomes part of the value itself. So what lessons can we draw from this? First, never underestimate the power of rarity paired with story. A rare coin without a story is simply an artifact, but a coin with a mystery, a backstory, a whisper of the forbidden, that's art. History and intrigue fused together. Second, understand that the numismatic market is cyclical, emotional, and surprisingly resilient. When economic uncertainty rises, investors often turn toward tangible assets, coins, bullion, artifacts that outlast inflation. A coin like the 1958 D double die sits at the crossroads of rarity and refuge. And third, remember that opportunity hides where curiosity meets discipline. Those who find such coins aren't always professionals. Often, they're ordinary people who took the time to look closer. Picture this: a dimly lit room, the sound of a small desk lamp humming softly. A collector sits with magnifier in hand, turning over a Lincoln cent. The light catches the obverse. "In God we trust," and for a moment, there's a faint doubling, a flicker of shadow. The heart races. Is it possible? Could it be? That moment, that surge of possibility, is what keeps this entire world alive. And in that instant, you understand something powerful. The thrill of discovery isn't about the money. It's about time itself bending, the 1950s meeting the present through a coin no bigger than a fingertip. For seasoned collectors, the 1958 Denver double die stands as a reminder that perfection isn't always what defines value. Sometimes, the world's greatest treasures are born from mistakes, and perhaps that's what makes them so human. We chase them because they mirror us, our flaws, our uniqueness, our capacity to turn accidents into legacy. If you're wondering whether it's still possible to find one, yes, it's unlikely but not impossible. Every year, hidden treasures surface. People have uncovered six-figure rarities in bank-wrapped rolls, thrift stores, and childhood collections thought to be worthless. So keep searching. Learn to recognize the signs. Study the details, the font, the doubling, the mint mark position. Use tools, but also intuition. Because numismatics isn't a science alone. It's an art. A dialogue between the tangible and the mysterious. And maybe that's the real allure of coins like the 1958 D. They blur the line between probability and destiny. One day, someone will find another. Maybe it'll be an elderly collector passing his albums to his grandchildren. Maybe it'll be you, unrolling a stack of forgotten wheat cents from a family attic. The discovery will spread through the community like wildfire. And once again, the humble 1-cent piece will remind the world that history's most extraordinary moments often come wrapped in the ordinary. So, the next time you hold a copper Lincoln cent from 1958, especially one bearing that small D beneath the date, pause for a moment. Feel the weight of possibility. You're not just holding metal, You're holding a fragment of a mystery that's defied explanation for nearly 70 years. It's a reminder that America's story isn't just written in books. It's struck in metal, passed hand to hand, generation to generation. Somewhere out there, perhaps in a forgotten jar or an unsearched roll, lies a coin that could change everything, and when it's found, it won't just make headlines. It will rekindle what collectors already know in their hearts, that the past still has secrets, and the smallest treasures often carry the greatest power. So look closely. Search patiently. And remember, every coin tells a story. But a rare few whisper a secret meant only for the eyes of those who care enough to listen. Because in the world of coins, discovery isn't just luck. It's destiny, waiting to be revealed.